Hi there, and welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today we are going to make bagels in the Ninja Foodi. Super easy to do, but it is a multi-step process, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do each one. Okay, this is what they're going to look like, guys. It's worth sticking around to watch this video. Let me put these over here, and we'll get started. The first thing I have here is 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and I have 1 teaspoon of salt that I'm going to mix in. We have 2 1/4 teaspoons of, this is instant yeast, but if you're using active dry yeast, that's fine. Either one will work. The active dry yeast needs to be proofed before using, which we're going to do even though this is instant. We're going to go ahead and go through that process in case you're using active dry. And I also have a tablespoon of sugar in here. That's going to help. That gives the food for the yeast to start to bloom and develop. So all I'm going to do is I have 1 cup of hot tap water. So you can use a thermometer when you're measuring out the temperature of your water, but you really don't need to. Just turn the tap to the highest setting, fill up a cup, and if you can put your finger in it, it feels warm like bath water, but you can hold your finger in here for a few minutes without feeling the need to move it away, then you're probably at the right temperature. You want it to be somewhere between 105 and 110. Over 115 will kill the yeast, so we don't want to get that hot. But if it was 115, you'd feel like you want to move your finger. Trust me. Okay, so I'm going to pour in about a tablespoon here and give it just a little bit of a stir. You don't have to do this, but I think it makes it a little quicker. Give it a little bit of a stir. And then what's going to happen is the yeast is going to start to eat the sugar, and it will start to bubble up and kind of become a little frothy. So while that's going on, I'm going to go ahead and just sort of mix up the salt into my flour. This will take probably about 5 minutes or so. So we'll just wait, and then when this is ready, we will pour it into our flour. Okay, so we've got some nice bubbles formed on top here, and it's kind of gotten a little frothy, so we are ready to go. I'm going to just make like a little well here and go ahead and pour in the yeast, sugar, and water mixture. Make sure to scrape the bowl because there will be a little bit of sugar at the bottom that hasn't quite dissolved. Then we can just start to kind of fold this in. This is the same process as when we made the homemade bread, and I will link to that video right over there. Be sure to try that bread recipe. It's super easy and really good. Now I'm just going to slowly add in my warm water, continuing just kind of use the fork to move things around. Probably putting in about 1/4 cup at a time. So we're just going to move this around to incorporate the flour into the wet ingredients and kind of form a very loose and shaggy dough ball here. And then what I'm going to do is add a little bit of flour to my surface here. Now you could use a cutting board, you could even use a clean countertop, so you don't have to be fancy. But I love this pastry mat and I use it all the time. It's from Pampered Chef, and I will definitely link to it in the description below. Then we're just going to pull out our dough. Scrape this off. I think I'm going to use this little scraper too, just to get a little bit more off out of the bowl. Get that loose flour and stuff. Now you could do this in a stand mixer, no problem. And it would go a little bit quicker, but not everybody has a stand mixer, and I really want to show you guys just how easy it is to make homemade bread, bagels, whatever, without any fancy equipment, because really all you need is your hands. Okay, so we've got a loose ball here, and what I'm going to do is just pull it over. It's going to be real sticky right now, and that's fine because we're going to knead it a little bit, and as we move it around, it will become less sticky. Now this is a dense dough, so it's going to be a firmer dough than some of the other ones that we've made, and it's going to stay that way, and that's just characteristic of the bagel dough. Okay, so I've got some sticking here, so I want to add a little bit more flour. You just have to use your judgment. If it's really sticking to your surface or sticking to your hands, add a little bit more flour, but be careful. You don't want to go overboard and add so much that it changes the bread texture. So I'm just gonna knead for a few minutes. Don't need to do this long at all. And we're gonna go through the same proofing process that we did in the homemade bread recipe. So we're gonna use the dehydration function on the Ninja Foodi. All right, I can tell it's becoming a lot less sticky. So we are just about finished. And literally, I think I needed this maybe 2 minutes. All right, it's pulling up nicely. It also has a nice little stretch to it. So we're ready for the proofing. And this is gonna take 30 minutes in the Ninja Foodi on the dehydration setting. And I'm just gonna add in a little bit of olive oil here to the bottom of the inner pot, maybe a half of a tablespoon or so. Fold this over, get the top here, roll it around, and then flip it over. And we're also going to use a damp towel. This is a flour sack, and I talk about them all the time, and I will definitely link to it below. And we're gonna just lay it over. The reason why we do this is because when the dehydration mode is on the Ninja Foodi, the fan runs, and we don't want the fan to dry out the top of the bread. So we definitely wanna cover it. If you don't have a flour sack or another super clean kitchen towel that you wanna use, you can certainly lightly wrap it with saran wrap, but I found that the fan still kind of blew the saran wrap around the edges. So you're gonna wanna make a big enough sheet and check on it maybe periodically to make sure it hasn't come off the bread. Turn the Ninja Foodi on, go to the dehydration. We're gonna go all the way down to the lowest setting, which is 105. And you can only set the time from an hour, I think up to 8 hours maybe. We want 30 minutes, but I'm gonna go to the hour, and then I'll just check it in 30 minutes, and we will then get to the second process of making homemade bagels. So we just have a few more seconds left to go on the proofing of our bagel dough, and I have a kitchen scale here with just a little plastic container. I am gonna weigh the dough, and then I'm gonna divide it into 6 equal portions. Now, this is totally optional. You do not have to do this, but I want my bagels to be almost exactly the same size, and that's the way to get that done. So we lift our lid, remove our damp towel, and we're gonna take out our dough. Now, when you take out the dough, you're gonna notice it's really stretchy. It's just beautiful. Like, this is my favorite part, I think, of bread making. It's a little tacky, don't worry about that, it's fine. Okay, so it is about 1 pound, 6.5 ounces. So we're gonna go with about like 3.5 ounces per bagel. So I'm just going to squeeze off some. And let's see what that is. That's probably about 4 ounces. Well, it's 3.7. Let's go ahead and go with that. And let's do this one. And that one is 3.6. That's fine. That one's a little light, I can tell. Yep, 2.9. So we'll add a little bit more to that one. Now, if this stickiness bothers you, you can coat your hands in a little bit of flour. All right, that's 3.8. 3.9. So now we would just split these in half, right? All right, 3.5 and 3.9. Well, so let's take some of this one and give it to this one. Now we got 3.5 here and 3.9 here, so let's split the difference. All right, that's good. Again, totally optional. You do not have to do that. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and form our bagels. And what I'm gonna do is, just to prevent some sticking, is put a little bit of cornmeal down. All right, so what I wanna do is, I don't wanna work with this too much. I like the way it's feeling right now, but I do kinda wanna smooth out the top a little bit and make a round. So just kind of pat it down. Now it's gonna rise again, so we don't have to worry about it being perfect, because as it rises, it's gonna kind of perfect itself. Then what you wanna do is put your finger and your thumb here and just push a hole through. Now, I didn't make my holes, I don't think, big enough on the last one, so I'm gonna make these a little bit bigger. and you just set them down like that. So I like that size. It's probably about a $1/2 size, and just lay them down here on the cornmeal again, and do it with all 6 of the dough balls. Okay, so we have our 6 bagels formed, and you can already see the first one that I did is already starting to rise. It's already starting to fill in that circle, and that's why you want to make the circle about twice as big as what you want in the middle of your bagel. Now we're going to use that same cloth, and we're going to cover these bagels, and they're going to rest for about 15 to 20 minutes. During this time, we're going to get our Ninja Foodi, the inner pot, filled with about 12 to 14 cups of warm water. I like to start with warm water. It's not necessary, but it will speed up the process. Then we're going to go ahead and put the Ninja Foodi under pressure for about 5 minutes. That's going to really heat that water up, and then we'll do an immediate release, and we will start to boil our bagels. Okay, so I have 14 cups of warm tap water in here, and although I rinsed out the Foodi, I didn't worry about scrubbing the bottom or anything like that, so there's little pieces of the dough. That's not going to bother anything. I also have 1 tablespoon of sugar. Now this is important to add, and there's different things you can add when you're making bagels, but this is easy. Everybody's got sugar at home, so put in 1 tablespoon of sugar. What that is going to do is create the Maillard reaction with the bagels and help with browning at the end. Turn it to seal. Turn the Ninja Foodi on, go to the pressure mode. High is what we want, and we're just gonna do this for about 5 minutes. The time is not that important, so if you really want it to get it done quicker, you could do it for 2 minutes. That's not important. What's important is that it comes up to pressure, so it's really boiling that water in there. And then hit the start. So these will rest underneath the towel for about 15 minutes. Real quick, I'm gonna move these. They're already starting to get bigger, so I'm going to move them kind of further apart and add a little bit more of this so it doesn't stick. They're so cool. I mean, you're making bagels. That's so awesome. Okay, they look great. They don't have to be perfect. That one's not perfect. It's fine. As it rises, it's going to almost perfect itself, and you will end up with great looking and tasting bagels at the end of this, I promise. Okay, so it has finished coming up to pressure, and I let it be under pressure for about 5 minutes. That's not absolutely necessary, but I thought it would just give it a good chance to really build up that temperature. Now we're going to turn it off and hit the quick release. So our red button has depressed, which means we can open up the pressure cooker lid now. We want to do that pretty quickly because we want this to still be boiling when we put in our bagels. And this allowed the perfect amount of time for our bagels to do their second little rise, and they look great. So we're gonna go ahead and pop one in. You can do 3 at a time. They will immediately start to cook and boil, and that's what we want. All right, perfect. Now, I'm gonna let this go because this water's really hot. I'm gonna let this go just for about a minute or so, and then I'm gonna flip them, and I'm gonna put the steam function on for 2 minutes. Now, you could do this completely using the sear saute button. You can boil your water, you can keep your water boiling, that's fine. I did that the first time I made homemade bagels in the Ninja Foodi, but I found this produced a better bagel for my liking. But if it seems a little too complicated, you don't want all these steps, you can certainly use the sear saute. Okay, so I'm just gonna gently flip these over. They look real craggly right now. Don't worry about that. Okay, so I'm gonna put the lid back on, and sometimes it takes a little finesse to get this lid back on because there is some pressure still built up, and you just kind of have to play with it. So we're gonna go to the steam function, and the time is gonna be 2 minutes. and hit start. Now, the thing about the steam function is your lid's not locked, so you can certainly open it up and check on them. So what this is gonna do is just to help to keep that water really hot in there and finish cooking those bagels. And then we'll get on to the second ones here. Okay, so we've gone just a little over a minute. I'm just gonna take a peek here and oh my gosh, they're big, they look great, and I think they're pretty much done. So I'm gonna go ahead and take them out and we can get the second ones in. So I'm just gonna gently lift. Now don't touch this water, okay, because the water is really hot. So I'm just gonna gently lift these out, put them on our rack here. These look great. All right, so let's get the second ones in, the second set of 3. Be careful, don't touch that water because the water is really, really hot. They will immediately start to cook. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put this lid back on. Okay, steam, and we're gonna do 4 minutes. So that should start to steam right away because that water is really super hot. Gonna keep this to the vent setting now. All right, so I'm gonna grab this bagel, pull it over here, and we're gonna brush it with a little bit of egg yolk and water. That's gonna also help with the browning, and it's gonna let all of our toppings stick to this bagel. So you can top them with whatever you like or nothing. You can leave them plain. You can leave the egg wash off, that's fine. My husband really likes sesame seeds, and so I combine a little bit of sesame seeds with some fine grind sea salt, and I just sort of mix that up, and I'm just gonna sprinkle it right over the top. These are not toasted because we're gonna bake these bagels to finish them up, and so I figured that would toast the sesame seeds, so I used non-toasted. All right, here's the next one. Now this one, the hole kind of closed up a little bit, but it's still gonna be delicious. Same thing, brush it with the egg yolk only. I only use the egg yolk and about a tablespoon of water I mixed in there as well. Give it a nice bath. And then this one I'm gonna do with an everything seasoning that I just made up from stuff I had around. So I have poppy seeds, I have crushed rosemary leaves, some sesame seeds, a little bit of salt, some garlic powder and onion powder. I'm just gonna mix that up pretty good and sprinkle it on. You could do the backs as well if you like. I'm just gonna stick with doing the tops though. And our third one. All right, before I top this, we're at the 2-minute mark, so I wanna go ahead and open this up and flip these. We want to get them boiled on both sides. So I'm just taking this wooden spoon, kind of lifting them and flipping them. It doesn't matter if they touch, they will come back apart. These made some really super big bagels. That's gonna be great. Okay. All right, perfect. Put the lid back on. And again, it might take just a little bit of finesse to get it seated in there and turned, and then let it go the other 2 minutes and we'll finish. Okay, so we're just gonna finish up sprinkling this with the sesame seeds and salt mixture. And then we'll get the Ninja Foodi rack. We're gonna use it in the low position to bake the bagels. And so I'm just gonna carefully set them on and kind of fit them around so that they fit on there. These are pretty big bagels, so you can only bake 3 at a time. I don't want to air. That should be good. Let's see what's going to happen when this one comes up. Yeah, just set it like that. Okay, great. So these should be just about done, and I'll pull those out, and then we will do the same thing. We'll give them a bath in the egg wash and sprinkle on whatever toppings we want. Okay, so turn the Foodi off, open this up, and gently remove the other bagels. They look perfect. Egg wash first. And these 3 will be fine to sit here while we bake the first 3. So that's no problem in letting them sit for a little bit. So let's put some of our everything seasoning. And then just our plain salt and sesame seeds. Again, you can put whatever toppings you like. You can actually saute some real onions if you wanted to put like little onions on top. That would be really good. And red onions would be really pretty. All right, so let me dump this water out and then we're gonna get those 3 baking. Okay, so let's put this rack of bagels in. Close the air crisp lid and turn the Ninja Foodi on. Go to bake roast. We're gonna go to 350 degrees and our time is gonna be 15 minutes. We will flip them at 10 minutes. All right, so they've been baking at 375 for 10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and lift the lid. And remember, you can always lift the lid during any of the bake time or air frying time with the Ninja Foodi. And I did a couple of times just to make sure they were browning nicely, which they are. Now I'm gonna give them a flip because I want the underside to get brown as well. Now, the first time I made these, the bagels kind of stuck a little bit. And so I would recommend going ahead and brushing your grate, your rack with a little bit of olive oil before you put those in to bake, just to prevent that. So we'll go another 5 and they should be ready to take out and then we'll get the other 3 in. Okay, so the 15 minutes is up. We did 10 minutes with them upside right, I guess you'd say, and then we flipped them and we did another 5. So we browned the bottoms a little bit more and they look really good. Wow. Oh my, look at that. That's perfect. Now we have to put them on a rack to cool for a minute, but just for a few minutes. Wow. Ooh, I cannot wait to eat these. Wow. That one looks a little bit, not quite round, but that's okay. All right, so now these guys can go in on the rack and we do the same thing. These are a little bit bigger than the ones I made this morning. So they're kind of touching the sides a little bit. So what I would recommend doing if yours are a little bit bigger is halfway through the first bake, the first 10 minutes, go ahead and move them around a little bit. All right, so we're gonna put the bake roast back on. 375, 15 minutes, start. Now I'm just gonna get this cleaned up, and by the time I do that, we'll be ready to taste these bagels. Okay, so I've just let these cool just a few minutes. I mean, ordinarily I would let them cool a little bit longer, but I wanna give them a taste for you guys. And so I'm just gonna cut them with a serrated bread knife. Now you can obviously toast these, which is ordinarily what we would do if we were gonna have them for breakfast. But I'm just gonna go ahead and take a piece and put a little butter on it. Now you can see the inside, so it's got that traditional look of a bagel and it feels like a bagel. Once these cool completely, they're still hot inside. These will actually be better than this one because I am interrupting the cooking process, and so it's a little bit gummier here, but I wanted to do that because I want to taste it on camera for you guys. I'm just gonna rip this apart and get my handy dandy butter bell here and get a little butter out. Of course, you know, butter, jam, peanut butter and jelly, anything you'd like can go on these bagels. That was my dog Callie giving her cameo appearance. Oh my. Really good. So the outside is crunchy, but also chewy, like a good bagel is. And the inside is tender, but still dense and chewy. Wow. These are great. Now I know there's a lot of steps in making bagels, but it is so worth it. I mean, just to know that you made them yourself, and they're super easy to do. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe over there at the end and hit that notification bell so that you get notified when our next video comes out. If you care to join our Facebook groups, we have two for the Ninja Foodi. Ninja Foodi 101, where we go over the basic use of the Ninja Foodi and share tips, tricks, and also recipes. Or we have Ninja Foodi Fresh and Healthy, where we try to keep our Ninja Foodi meals a little bit on the healthier side, and we share lots of tips and also recipes on that group as well. Till next time, bye-bye.